Well, we're now joined by a man who is facing charges for being part of a criminal organisation of money laundering and of people smuggling. He's already spent over 100 days in prison in Greece, and although he was released on bail a year ago, the investigation by the authorities continued. Arrested while volunteering for a non-profit organisation, the Emergency Response Centre International, supporters say the crime he's accused of is saving lives. Sean Binder, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Firstly, can I just start by asking you simply, what exactly were you doing for this NGO when you were arrested?
Right. So, I suppose I joined the organisation originally because I had training in search and rescue. I grew up in Ireland and I worked at the shoreline a lot, and I have rescue diving training and I have a boat licence. And I also have come from a research policy context of European defence and security. And that's when I realised that the European Union is currently responding to one of the most severe humanitarian crises to befall the continent since the wars, is by securing our border against those people who are most in need. And so I felt I understood the policy context and I have some of the practical skills. Why don't I go to Lesbos, which has been a primary entry point for asylum seekers, to offer some kind of assistance. So for about a year, I was coordinating the search and rescue efforts, the civilian search and rescue efforts. We had a team of medics, we had search and rescuers, interpreters, and we could respond both on land and at sea with those assets, usually in conjunction with and always in cooperation with the authorities who would ask us to respond because, for instance, they might not have the same medical training as we had or the same kind of assets or resources that we had.
So working in cooperation with the authorities who then arrested you? That's
right. So I remember one day distinctly that the Frontex vessel that was operating in the area had run out of blankets. And despite being in Greece, we do see a lot of patients who have hypothermia. And so we were able to deliver them with our bales of blankets because they had run out. I remember standing shoulder to shoulder with police officers, looking out to sea and being able to respond to boats that were coming in very cooperatively.
So how do they justify their arrest then? And what were you, on the day they came to arrest you, how did that happen?
Yeah, so it kind of took Sarah Mardini and I by surprise. We were doing something called a spotting shift that happens at the southern shore, at the last final tip where it's safe for a boat to arrive. And between the hours of 12 a.m. and 7 a.m., we are there looking out and making sure that nothing is happening that is perhaps dangerous. And then at 3 a.m., police officers came and they checked our passports. This is fairly regular. But then they also checked our Jeep and they took us in for questioning. 2 days later, they released us pending further investigation. They had confiscated our laptops, our mobile phones. They had searched through our bags of flour for drugs. They had found nothing. And then an article was written 3 days later or 4 days later saying something like, a German spy has been apprehended at the border with a Syrian accomplice. They were infiltrating the military camps. If it seems like a spy novel, it's because it is like one. And it was really polemic and written like that. Nothing for us changed. We continued working as usual because people were still arriving in danger. And then in August, we were arrested again, and we were detained for 3.5 months. And we're currently facing charges of facilitation, smuggling, or essentially smuggling, being part of a criminal organisation, money laundering, fraud, and even espionage or spying. And we faced 25 years in prison because of it. And
do you have any theory as to why they picked the two of you up and charged you with that? I mean, is this happening in the area? Did you see anything?
So for me, what was so surprising is that we had been so cooperative with the authorities. But I think the point here and the really important thing is that there's nothing special about what we did. It wasn't criminal, it wasn't heroic. It was just providing the basic medical care to people. And when you step back, when I was in prison, I was researching my case, it turns out there's 158 individuals across the European Union who are being prosecuted. I got an email from a guy called Norbert Valli, he's a pastor in Switzerland. He has been prosecuted because he let asylum seekers sleep on his church pews during a storm. That at the moment, given the political and the legal context that we currently exist in and the securitized border that we have enforced, we are allowing the criminalization of humanitarian action on a chronic level.
And give us an idea, Sean, of what you saw during your time in Greece working with those migrants. What kind of people were arriving? You know, why they're trying to make these claims that suspicious people are among the groups there?
Sure. I mean, smuggling is undoubtedly a part of this system. Unfortunately, it is a part of the securitization itself. When we lock our border down, there are a number of facts here. It is illegal to be in Europe without the necessary documentation currently. We don't give out visas to people who are asylum seekers in third countries, but they have to be in the territory to be an asylum seeker, essentially, and we secure our border. So there's no legal way of making that journey. We are forcing people to undertake these smuggled and extremely dangerous journeys. And that is why civilian search and rescue is so fundamentally important. 18,900 people, roughly, according to the UNHCR, have drowned or assumed missing in the Mediterranean. It is the most dangerous ocean, or the most dangerous sea in the world right now. And that is because of our policies. And we've seen boats that are designed for 15 people, packed with 86 people, many without life jackets, lots of children.
And meanwhile, just finally, where do you go from here with your case?
So right now it is a state of limbo. I'm very confident that we will not be found guilty. They say that we're spies because we used encrypted communication services. That's WhatsApp, right? This is the kind of evidence being brought forward. But the point is not that we are going to be found guilty. It is enough for this to be a case that is extremely costly for us. It takes such a long time, and it has a chilling effect. On the shoreline, on the southern shore, where we were 3 or 4 civilian search and rescue organizations, there are now 0. And this comes in a time when, in percentage terms, it is more dangerous to make this journey. The sum total of the response and the view of humanitarian action as criminal is to cause more people to drown.
Okay,
that's what it's achieved.
Well, Sean Binder, thanks so much for coming in and telling us your story, and I hope you'll stay in touch with us as it all unfurls.
And out of prison.
Indeed. Sean Binder, thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
We're going to have a